Hi, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Career Live. We're really glad to have you here today. This is a repeat of a Career Live that happened Thursday morning, and we had audio problems. We were overmodulating. So thanks so much for joining us today. We're today talking about a really important issue. What does it mean to be job search ready? Well, the market has changed. And if you haven't been in the job market in a while, you're going to be shocked. And so I will tell you this preview. If you go into the job market and you're not familiar with how things have changed, it will extend your search. If you have limited severance and limited cash reserves, you cannot afford that. We can help you get ready at johngself.com. Join our membership program. It only costs $49 a month, and we have all the resources there available. Plus, if you join before the end of the year, you get 6 hours of coaching for free. Had to think about that for a minute because I'm the one doing it. So yes, 6 hours of coaching for free, and we can help you become job search ready. So let's get to it. In today, the economy remains unclear. We had a better than expected jobs report earlier today. Last week, there were more people applying for unemployment benefits. Now, a lot of those numbers are reflections of the economy. They're not necessarily accurate completely across the board. I would say this, that I scratch my head all the time looking at the conflicting economic indicators. There are people who think we're going to be in a deep recession by quarter two next year. There are other people that say it's going to be a soft landing. I would say that the KPIs for a recession have all indicated it should have happened. It hasn't yet, could yet happen, but you don't want to sit around and go, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not going to worry about it. Well, you need to worry about being job search ready. Automation in the talent acquisition area has dramatically changed the process. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I've been doing research for 27 years, and I have been shocked over the last 5 years how the market has changed. And managers and executives are struggling with the job search across multiple sectors, not just in healthcare or retail or communications or publishing. It's across the board. Now, these changes are really extending the time it takes to find a new position. If you're a manager or an executive, managers probably 4 to 6 months, an executive maybe 8 to 12 months or longer. You may be luckier on the downside, which is great. I hope you are. But that's just what we're seeing on an average, okay? So just be aware of how things are changing. You really want to avoid this scenario that you haven't looked for a new job. Now, that's a good thing that you haven't looked for a new job in a while, but your resume is somewhere on your computer. It's not really updated, and you hope it's still there, and you hope it's not corrupted. You've done a good job with your work, but you don't really know where you stand with your company. You've heard rumors the company may be having financial trouble. Sales are down. Cost of capital is up. Plus, this is your bad. You haven't invested time in networking, and which is a real basic career killer. And above all else, you don't have a written career plan, even though the research showed that people, managers and executives with a written plan, with a goal in life, do better than those who don't. So why would you want to be like everybody else? You want to differentiate yourself. Start planning. Okay. So if you're vulnerable, okay, what does that mean? You don't have much wiggle room. That is the majority of people in the management executive levels. They live from paycheck to paycheck. Your retirement account may have some cash reserves, but the cash on hand will not last you through a long layoff. And I will tell you that companies after the pandemic have been a little bit more frugal with their severance programs. You can see anything from 90 days to 6 months, even 6 months for executives. And there are many more limitations. One of the reasons we created this membership program is because some companies are no longer even offering outplacement as a severance benefit. So $49 a month, we can make it easy on you and help you accelerate your search. Now, one of the really tough issues, and when you start talking about changing jobs, is that it involves your family. And your family may be happy You have a great church, your kids are happy in school, your wife has a great group of friends, and that's really important to her. And the thought of uprooting the family because you lost your job is really, really an emotional kind of roller coaster. So that's part of the equation. And so you're maybe a little bit vulnerable, but you can't afford to be vulnerable and unprepared. Now you're laid off. Okay, let's just think about that for a minute. It's tapped on the shoulder on Friday afternoon and says HR wants to see you or your boss wants to see you. They tell you, okay, we're going to give you 6 months severance with benefit, and you're stunned. I mean, 10 years gone in a flash. You've been with a company a long time. You get 6 months severance. Guess what? That severance is probably not going to be enough to tide you over. Then they may even escort you from the building with the other victims, okay? You call home, your call home breaks down in a flood of emotion. What am I going to do? I've been there. I've done that. So I'm speaking from personal experience. And as Bum Phillips, the old Houston Oilers football coach who got unceremoniously fired because of a bad officials call, once said, he told Johnny Carson, the late night talk show host, listen, in this business, you're either them's that's been fired and them's that's going to be. Well, it happens to all of us at one time or another in our careers. And it's a very emotional experience. That's another reason you want to be job search ready. So what does that mean? You need to grieve and regroup. Hey, listen, if you don't have a lot of cash on hand, 6 months is not going to buy you much time, or even 90 days is not going to buy you any time. But you still need to take 2 or 3 days at a minimum to kind of go through this. You do not want to go immediately into the market until you've absorbed what's happened to you. Now, you need to develop a career plan. And from that career plan, you need to develop a communications plan. What are you going to tell people? Why were you laid off? What do you want to do? What are your values? What's your skill set? Then you want to develop a networking plan. We call it networking 3.0. You want to establish a daily routine to conduct your search. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I hope this information is helpful. And if it is, I hope you will share it with friends. Okay, next steps. Please don't immediately rush to the market to start applying for the jobs. You're not ready. It will be a waste of your time. First of all, you've got to get your resume up to date. And every time you apply for a job now, you have to customize your resume. So you need a format that's easily customizable. If you have an older format with multiple columns and a lot of color, you're going to have to start all over. Because ATS, applicant tracking systems, the computer scanners and the software won't read your resume, and you'll get kicked out and you won't even know. Okay, take time to grieve. I will tell you that I keep going back to this. I know you said, John, you're talking about that a lot. But in 27 years of recruiting, I have seen so many executives that show up for interviews and they're still emotionally raw from getting fired. I mean, they're offended, they're angry, and you poke them a little bit about what happened. I've even had candidates break down in tears in a job interview. Now, you can't control your emotions. What you can do is give your emotions time to process. Okay? They have to play out. And somebody said, it's like the 6 stages of grief when you lose a family member or a close friend. So please pay attention to that one issue. Don't allow yourself to hit the market, even though you're desperate to get back in the market. It's how we define our self-worth. It's how we define who we are. And we need to pay the bills. We got kids in private school. I get all that. But you need to take several days to kind of sort it all out emotionally. And it may take you longer. And if you don't have the money, you just got to do what you got to do. But at least take 2 or 3 days. Why were you the one picked? Why didn't they pick some of your colleagues? Why are you? You may even have to, while you're thinking about all that, you can be doing some honeydews or some of your own need-to-dos, working them off your list. Now, if you can afford it, we recommend you find a coach. If you have not been in the market for 5 or 6 years, you will need help. Applying your lessons from why you need to develop your value brand statement. People say, well, what's that? Why is that important? The first question you're going to be invariably asked is, why should we hire you? Tell us about yourself. It's all the same question. And what you want to do is communicate who you are in a very tightly worded statement, emphasizing your skills and your values and what you can do for that company. 60 to 90 seconds. You cannot do that on the fly. So you prepare that in advance and learn it. Don't memorize it. Learn it and put it in your heart, because it'll be more authentic. Okay. You also, if you have a professional network, you want to craft an email that says, I've left my former employer to pursue some new opportunities. If you know of anything, please let me know. You can say there was a layoff. If you were terminated, I would just be very, very, very vague about why you're looking. It was just time to move on. And people say, well, I don't want my friends to know that I'm looking. Who the hell's going to help you? Yes, it's okay to admit that you're looking for a new job. One of the most important things that people should do, and many don't do, is you prepare an exit statement. Because what you don't want is some recruiter like me, or a former recruiter like me, a recruiter like I used to be, asking you that question: why did you leave? Did you get fired? And if you don't have an answer, you may mutter, stumble, fumble, and mumble into the end zone and the exit door. So be prepared for your interview, okay? That's really important, and be prepared to tell why you were laid off or why you were fired. Less is more. Be honest, but don't give them too many details. Now, you need to get organized with your search. You need to update your computer. If you have an older laptop, or that will slow you down. A lot of the new apps and the new programs that'll help you with your job search run better on faster operating systems. So if you hadn't bought a new computer in 4 or 5 years, if it's a Mac, you're probably okay. If it's a PC, you probably will want to go buy a new one. Do not buy a computer from Dell with the camera, or HP, or whoever does this silliness, with the camera right above the keyboard, because you're going to then have to buy a stand for your video interviews so that the people aren't looking over your keyboard. Okay, so don't make that mistake. The new cameras in the computers, you want one at the top of your screen. And we've done some programs and video blogs on how to do video interviews. And we did one, I think the other day, I think it was office hours on Wednesday afternoon. It's up on YouTube now. Check that one out. Okay. Buy the necessary equipment that you're going to need. You're going to need a journal to keep a track of who you're talking to every day. You got to write this down. Looking for a job is challenging. Looking for a job is harder than doing your job, and it's something that you're not used to doing. So you want to make a very detailed record of what you're doing every day. That's a way to hold yourself accountable, because you've got to do certain things every day. You've got to post, you've got to network, you've got to execute on your planning, your networking 3.0 plan, all of those things. So you want to buy the equipment and the materials necessary to have an office. It is a full-time job finding a job. So you need to really prepare. Then you need to buy the necessary equipment. If you need to update your computer, do so. Don't be cheap. You want to buy a halo light, not one of these little tiny halo lights that you wedge your cell phone in. You want to get a reasonably good size halo light, and you may spend more money on it. But let me tell you something. If you think you're going to use it one and done in your career, you're crazy as hell. We are going to go through another pandemic. It's not, I don't know when, but it's going to happen. We got lucky in a couple of other earlier global pandemics that we were pretty much protected, but we won't always be protected. And as we have more global travel and people moving all around the world for business and pleasure, it's unbelievable the chances of bringing in viruses to the United States. My daughter, who is just an incredibly brilliant strategist in communications, worked for a big cruise line, and they got updated during the pandemic. And there was something like 4,000 or 5,000 other viruses that could easily jump from animals to humans that were a lot worse than COVID-19. So that's just something to keep in mind. Plus, if you grow in your career and you're managing multiple sites, you're gonna use video more to stay in touch with your team. So buy a decent halo light. You can go on my YouTube channel, and some of my earlier videos have recommendations, and I'll be happy to advise you on that. But get a good one. They're going to be anywhere from $75 to $125. You get what you pay for, okay? You also want to have a good microphone. If you don't have a good microphone in your computer, you want to be sure you have a good USB mic so that you can use the microphone to improve your sound and still use speakers. Some systems, you have to wear headphones to to minimize the feedback. But on a Mac, I don't have to do that. So I'm using a studio microphone now to record this presentation. And I hope it's working better than it did yesterday. And it was we had a gain over modulation gain problem. Yes, gain problem, and that was my bad. So you always want to check the details. You want to establish the ground rules for dad. And I said dad because I was thinking about my job searches in the past. But for mom or dad or partner or spouse or whatever, if they're looking for a job, you got to have ground rules, because they are now working from home. And so the kids need to learn to respect that. You can't have kids bursting into your spouse's office or partner's office in the middle of an interview. I mean, that's happened on national TV, but sometimes some recruiters, some employers are not as forgiving. And so you want to avoid that. So establish some ground rules. Now, you have office hours so that your family knows, I'm going to be looking for a job, and I'm going to be in my office hours. I'm going to come in around 8:30 or 9, and I'm going to work till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And just respect that. Don't ask me to start running errands. I mean, if I was at work in an office, you wouldn't come and say, "Oh, Dad, take us this," or "Can't you run this?" or "Take us to the movies," or "Can we go buy ice cream?" You wouldn't do that. Now you need to take an afternoon off each week. And that's when you can take care and pay a little bit more attention to your kids or your family and the weekend, okay? Because you're not going to do much job searching on the weekend. You want to develop, and I always said this earlier, your resume is your first interview. And in the old days, we all scanned the resumes visually. I mean, we actually looked at the resumes as they came in, and I got really good at it. I could pretty much tell you, really quickly, within 20 seconds, if it was somebody I wanted to continue talking to. And we go through stages. We go through one phase. Okay, that person's out. This person's in. That person's out. This person's in. And then we go back and shrink it even more. Now it's all done with computerized software. They don't know who you are. They don't care who you are. They don't really care what your resume looks like. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on fancy formatting. And matter of fact, that's probably not a good idea. And you have to be aware of the ATS requirements. Some employers list what you can and can't do on your ATS site. Others do not. Don't submit a resume, do not submit a cover letter unless they ask for one, because that can screw up the ATS scanner. Okay, you've got to have a plan for networking. You need to have research, applying for positions. You've got to research where you're applying for jobs and checking on leads for unlisted jobs. That network is going to let you know if you have a good network or you're building a network. 60 to 70% of the best jobs are never listed online. So you need a network who can help you grow your career. Here's why you need to have a career plan. Research shows that you can only really manage 140 to 150 relationships and really develop contacts into relationships with that number. The human brain, that's what the brain can process. Having 10,000 connections trying to find a job is not productive. Connections won't help you find a job. Relationships will. So you have to take your connections that you make. You may use LinkedIn to do that. LinkedIn is not going to make it a relationship. You're going to have to do that with old-fashioned blocking and tackling, telephone calls, coffees at professional association meetings, video emails, all of those things. But you have to have a network to get you past the ATS scanner. Why? Because when you are referred into a job, your odds are about 16 to 1. When you're applying online, they're 150 to 200 or 300 to 1. Which do you want? Which odds sound better to you? If you have people that can help you and know you and speak for you, that's going to help you accelerate your job search. You need to begin scheduling coffees and lunches with industry contacts, salespeople, people that you might have dealt with in your former position, people that you've heard about. And, sometimes you may go to their office. Sometimes you may meet at Starbucks, and you want to try to maintain contacts with people that you worked with in the past. And you probably won't want to go back to the office for that. That's where Starbucks or a coffee shop comes in handy. Okay. But you need to get out and meet people face to face. Okay. You need to ramp up your social media. See that little circle right there? This is Travis Roderick. He is a incredibly talented healthcare executive that I've been working with, and he is just a remarkable person. That little circle there is for the LinkedIn and the bell. So if you follow somebody, if you're networking connected with them, you click that little bell so that when they post, you're notified. That interaction back and forth is how you build relationships. Okay? You need to ask for help or invest the time to learn how to elevate your LinkedIn profile. That is vital to be visible for recruiters. Why is that? Because recruiters are now using LinkedIn technology to scan thousands of passive candidates. People that don't even know about this job are going to find out about this job if their profile meets certain criteria. In the old days, recruiters, when it was all manual, we'd have 10 or 12 people in a panel, and that's who was competing for the job. Well, that's just doesn't happen anymore. I have a client that applied for a job. He spent 2.5 hours getting everything they wanted. He sent his resume. He put a letter of interest, and then they wanted him to fill out an application for an executive position. He did all of that, and then he got a message back. Thank you for completing the registration and resume submission. You are applicant number 456. 456 to 1. Is that the way you want to look for a job? No, you want to have a network of people that are relationship driven, who know you, who can believe in you, and who'll say, John, I heard about a new position that's not yet announced, but I know some people there. And if you're interested, I'm happy to give them your resume. Here's what I know about the job. You can customize your resume. And then I'll be happy to give it to the person I know there who happens to be the hiring manager. Okay, that's called going in the side door. You can go in the front door and fight with the computers, or you can go in the side door with a recommendation. I vote for side door. Okay, you need to post 5 or 6 times a week, organic content, things that you write, repost of industry news with your comments. And then you also need to reach out to people that you're connected with and seek their endorsements, okay? It's really important, preferably people who know what you've accomplished in your previous career. You also need to develop a career plan, okay? Why is that important? Because you have a limited ability for the number of contacts you can effectively convert to manage to relationships. So would you go to the airport with your family and go up to the ticket counter and say, I need to buy a ticket? Well, where do you want to go? Well, I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? That's kind of a crazy, silly example, but that's essentially what you're doing if you're trying to manage your career and you don't have a plan. The people who know where they want to go are more likely to get there with a written plan. That's what the research shows. Now, is it possible that your interest may change? Is it possible that you may get an opportunity and you go, my gosh, that's exciting. I want to do that. Well, okay, change your plan. But don't just let it fall to the side. You need a plan, and that plan will dictate who you're going to be reaching out to connect with. So if let's just say, for example, you and your wife sit down, or you and your husband sit down and you say, okay, if I lose my job, I've always wanted to work in the Northwest United States. Start building and I've also might want to work in the Southeast United States. Okay, those are now targeted areas for you to build your connections and the connections into relationships. And you can't wait till you're fired, because you can't build a connection into a relationship overnight. So if you consider networking investing in your house. And when you invest in your house, what do you get? More equity. When you sell the home, you get more money in your pocket. So that's the best reason that I would say that you want to have a network. As I've said before, finding a job is a full-time job, and it's a minimum of 4 to 5 days a week, and you need to spend 4 to 6 hours in the office. And if you're not, it's just going to make your search last longer. And you can say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll be better. I know a guy that every time I called him, a client early on, he's always on the golf course. And I said, I hope you're playing with somebody who's looking to hire you. Oh no, this is my regular Wednesday game. Well, what were you doing yesterday? Oh, that was some friends that wanted to play. He went 2 or 3 weeks and maybe spent one day in the office and then was frustrated because the telephone wasn't ringing off the wall. Why? He wasn't active on LinkedIn. He wasn't visible in his professional association. He wasn't reaching out to people. He was invisible. Okay. Now this is a process. Even if you're using networking people to help you get in to get side door introductions, there's still a lot of rejection. Not every one of those introductions is going to produce an opportunity, and so you really have to battle with keeping your self-image and your attitude up. And so every day, job search ready people are already in the habit they're in the habit of doing, to be grateful. They daily keep a journal and they start off the day writing 2 or 3 things they're grateful for. As somebody said, it makes my day. Even if I start off and get up on the wrong side of the bed, by the time I finish planning my day and completing my gratitude journal entries, I feel so much better, so much better. And so I encourage you to do that. Rejection is a part of the process, okay? And I've said this before, the odds are horrendous for online application. You need to double down on your networking. And again, keep in mind, 60 to 70% of the jobs are not posted. You're going to find out about those from your network. And rejection is unavoidable. I'm sorry. I know none of us like that. Don't let it become personal. Don't let it become personal. Do not rely on your spouse or your partner to listen to your vents. Get a coach so you can vent to them. You can say so much to your partner, but goodness gracious, you do not want to just constantly complain and talk about how you're down. Your partner wants you to be successful, and they're nervous because you're not working. So keep that in mind. There is only so much a spouse or a partner can take, believe me. You want to take an afternoon break. If you lose out on a deal and it really just bums you out, okay, that happens to all of us. Take an afternoon break, but do not escape. Just use that time to regroup, okay? In the end, you may feel like you will never work again, but don't believe yourself when you start having those thoughts. You will. You must rely on your faith in God or whatever power you hold dear. But most importantly, you must have faith in yourself. You can't lose that. The last point I want to make is you will survive, but it will take hard work and it will take time. I hope this information has been helpful. If you have questions, you can email me at info@johngself.com, or you can schedule a free call with me by going to our website, johngself.com, and going to the bottom of the page and click the Talk to John button. And I'll be happy to spend some time with you and talk you through some of the things that you'll face. You don't have to hire me. You don't have to become a member of our group. We're here to help people, okay? And we hope that will be something that will be beneficial to you.